Now today we're going to look at the process of combining all the books of the Bible into one book. Now this process is called canonization process. When the Bible was canonized, did we get the right books in and leave the wrong books out? What was a method used for determining which books stayed and which books were determined extra biblical? Now for me it's not really a very sexy topic. It's certainly an important one though, wouldn't you agree? The consensus is that the canonization process, well, it happened slowly over the centuries. And at times, there were conversations about a few of the books that maybe should be left out, and maybe some that were left out that should have been included. In 397, at the Council of Carthage, we see a kind of a ratifying process that has the 27 New Testament books that we currently have today as the Church's stamp of approval for the books that are inspired by God. Now following are a few thoughts by some popular voices on this topic. The first is a video by Matt Whitman. He's actually an engaging speaker, and he can make this topic pretty sexy. He even manages to bring a mountain goat into his video. Talk about entertaining. Definitely take the time to watch his video on this topic. I'll place a link to it at the end of this video. Another voice that lends expertise to this conversation is Dr. Bruce Metzger. Now he's considered to be one of the greatest scholars of all time on this topic. One of the books that he wrote is called The Canon of the New Testament, Its Origin, Development, and Significance. He is so well respected that even Dr. Bart Ehrman, who has written profusely denying the inspiration of the Bible, speaks highly of him. Now, if this topic is of interest to you, I would highly recommend that you add this small book to your library. The following are some excerpts from his intro. He says, "The recognition of the canonical status of several books of the New Testament was a result of a long and gradual process in the course of which certain writings regarded as authoritative were separated from a much larger body of early Christian literature. Although this was one of the most important developments in the thought and practice of the early church, history is virtually silent as to how, when, and by whom it was brought about. Nothing is more amazing in the annals of Christian church than the absence of detailed accounts of so significant a process. Now, despite the silence of patristic writers as far as the explicit accounts of the canonization process are concerned, there's a general unanimity among modern scholars as to what must have been some of the factors that brought about the recognition of the New Testament canon. Now, these three criteria, orthodoxy, apostolicity, and consensus among the churches for ascertaining which books should be regarded as authoritative for the church, came to be generally adopted during the course of the 2nd century and were never really modified thereafter. Charles Ryrie makes an important distinction in his book, Basic Theology, that God was in the background making sure that the right books were included in the canon. He said that the books were canonical the moment they were written, and that it was not necessary to wait until various councils determined it. Now, of course, we see that God did use councils and conversation and debate to ultimately determine the Bible that we have today. I think Ryrie's point was simply that God inspired the words of Scripture, and then He made sure that the books He actually inspired men to write made it into the canon. North Point Ministries, they wrote a short summary of some of these points as well in a small article, and it was titled How the Bible Was Formed. In it, they make the following observation. In AD 367, the respected church leader Athanasius published a universal list of 27 accepted New Testament books, the same books that are in our Bibles today, actually. Several important criteria guided the early church leaders. The three criteria are like Dr. Metzger's, but they're worded a little bit differently. And they are as follows. Number one, the apostolic authorship. The work was either authored by or associated with an apostolic witness, one of those first generations of people who had actually seen the risen Jesus. Number two, widespread usage and acceptance. The church grew and spread rapidly when a text maintained or gained universal usage and acceptance among the vast majority of these Christian pockets of the church. This attested to its authenticity. And number three, conformity to the rule of faith. It needed to have consistency with the general beliefs and practices recognized in the early churches. Now, in light of these conditions, only 7 of the 27 New Testament books faced more scrutiny. Hebrews, James, 2 Peter, 2nd, 3rd John, Jude, and Revelation. Now, all of these were eventually accepted into the 27 that we have today. Take the time to listen to Matt's video on the canonization process. He's a gifted and engaging speaker and has done a great job on this topic. The name of his YouTube video was, "Why Were Some Books Left Out of the Bible?" So that's it for this video. The next video is going to be the last one in our series on the role of the Bible in the church. In it, we're going to discuss a third question. If we have the inerrant Word and we have the right books in the Bible, are the books truly inspired by God? Should be fun. We'll see you on the next one.